Hi, I'm Dr. Gwen, and I'm a clinical psychologist who's been empowering neurodiverse and disabled individuals, their families, and their support systems for over 20 years. I love collecting and curating helpful tools, sharing mindsets, and promoting actions that I've professionally found to benefit this awesome community. If this is something you're interested in, please consider subscribing to my channel. In this episode, I interview Nancy Niebrugge, Executive Director of the Campbell Center in Glendale, California. Nancy helps us get to know the Campbell Center and how they help disabled adults live, work, and play their way. Our interview also clarifies the community integration and employment support services that are funded through the California Regional Center. A big thanks to Nancy for spending time with me and raising awareness of this awesome community resource. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to welcome Nancy Niebrugge, the Executive Director of the Campbell Center. Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Hi, Gwen. I'm great today. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for, helping raise awareness of the Campbell Center. But before we do that, maybe what we can do is have you introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been with the Campbell Center about 2.5 years. I've been the executive director, about 7, 8 months now. And I'm really excited for this position because we're just in a great state of change that I'm very pleased to be able to lead. My background is with disability services. More specifically, though, I was in the blindness industry for 22 years, working at the Braille Institute. So I came here with that background from a larger institution. But I also see a lot of parallels between the barriers that visually impaired adults and children face and what intellectually challenged folks face as well. So it prepared me well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you talk about visual impairments or blindness, and we also speak about disability, as they are both under, all of this is under the same umbrella. We're talking about access. Accessibility to our community, accessibility to services. And so, yeah, you are in you've had good experience and training that's prepared you for the Campbell Center. It's awesome.
It has. I see the same societal barriers, the same prejudices, the same psyche within the individual as to how to overcome that and how we can help people overcome that. What kind of programs really help build confidence and build empowerment.
Yes. Awesome. That's a wonderful segue into can you tell us about the Campbell Center? And we can start kind of high level, if you will, and then we'll get into the specific services. But tell us about the Campbell Center.
All right. Well, the Campbell Center is based in Glendale, California, and we've been around more than 65 years. Our founder was the Campbells, who had a daughter, Janice, with Down syndrome. And at that time, there were no services at all. So that's our origin story, that they decided they bucked the trend of that era in the 50s of, we're not going to put her in an institution. We are going to make sure she gets educated. And so they did it themselves and started what was then the Glendale Association for Retarded Children, which was the terms that were used in that time. And we grew from there. And as Janice grew up, the Campbells realized that they needed to develop services for adults because they could see that the same gap existed. As Janice grew, the school districts began to take things on for all disabled children. But now it was a challenge of what are the opportunities for adults? So they started a workshop and basically provided employment for Janice and her peers. And it has evolved from there. And so today we offer 3 different types of services. We help people engage in the community. We support them in finding work of their choice. And we have 3 residential homes. And we like to say that our goal and our role here is to help folks with intellectual disabilities live, work, and play their way.
Yeah. How awesome is that? I mean, when we think about helping adults find and create a life that's meaningful for them, purposeful, fulfilled lives. Their way is such an important
Right.
piece.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. Because a lot of agencies, you develop programs and then it gets kind of boxed in. You know, the programs become what they are, what they can figure out from a staffing position. And it takes a lot of energy and focus to make sure your program's adapting to the needs of the individuals. And what we're seeing is those needs are shifting. So Janice and her peers, Down syndrome was far more prevalent. Now we see a lot more adults with autism, and their needs are very different, and the programming needs to be very different. So it's very much a moving target, and we're evolving to try and meet the needs of autistic adults now.
Yeah. Yes. The three main services that you were talking about, community integration, work or employment support, and residential living. Nancy, are those services funded by the regional center in California?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We receive funding. We are vendorized in the terms of the field to provide those three programs, and we are reimbursed at an hourly rate for the supports that we provide.
Got it. And then are those services provided one-on-one?
Yes and no. Depends on the program. Our ratio for community integration is 2-to-1, but there's some flexibility there. So we're going to be doing some 1-to-1 to help develop a plan with we call them associates and their families, and all of those in what you would call their circle of support. And we may do some individualized supports and integration, and we may take small groups out. So it averages out to about a 1-to-2. The job development, job coaching, employment services are mostly 1-to-1. We have one group left, but most of it is individual supports for an adult that's in a community integrated job. So somebody's out in the community, like we have an associate at Scarantino's and one at Chick-fil-A. So they have jobs out in the community, and it's a 1-to-1. Residential is more one support adult in a house of 6 to 8 individuals. So that less so.
Got it. Got it. What it sounds like, though, I mean, if we think about the service delivery model in California with the regional center, they're usually guided by a person-centered plan, person-centered being the key phrase, which I love, which is totally aligned with their way, right? Yeah, live, work, play their way.
Right, exactly.
But the ratio is great because, I mean, I see a lot of need for one-on-one or at least feedback that's given in a way that's timed correctly, right? Sometimes when supports or feedbacks aren't enough, there's not enough feedback. Either the feedback loops are too far apart, or they're not being offered at the intensity that we need. And so these kind of low ratios, I think, really allow for really meaningful supports to happen in the community.
But yeah, you're right, Glenn. They do. We also have found that with the pandemic, and this is true of some of the other agencies as well, when everybody went out into the cyberspace, we had to do group supports on Zoom, but it also required that we're much more connected with families, much more connected with the associate to go to their home and talk with them more. And we had to develop new plans for everybody. And that really drove a lot of that more one-on-one support, so that the plans now were more customized to services that were more about, okay, what do you want to do? We're in the middle of a pandemic. What hobbies do you want to embrace? What things do you want to learn? What kind of supports do you need that are different than just coming to our program and maybe going as a group to volunteer somewhere or go on an outing? So it's interesting how the pandemic actually, many people will say, accelerated those person-centered planning services. Our staff also, we got a grant from the regional center, and myself and another individual have been certified in person-centered training, and we have 2 more going through that training. So it's really become now a philosophy that's embraced throughout our organization.
Yeah,
All our staff now have gone through it.
that's fantastic. You know,
Yeah, we're very happy
because
about that.
yeah, I mean that the idea that really the individual that this affects needs to be at the table. You know, they need to be, you know, the cornerstone of their program, the center of their program.
Yes, and it should be about the whole person. That's something I saw when I kind of came into this field is every program's vendored separately. It has its code, it has its reimbursement system, and it's a bit siloed.
Yeah.
So a service coordinator may direct different programs, but there often isn't enough coordination among them. So we feel that it's very important that that plan include the stakeholders from other parts of the programs, other pieces of our programs, other agencies, if they're doing support as well, and bring everybody together to talk about, okay, what's the direction we're going here? What are the challenges you see? How can we overcome them? What are the goals that's been expressed for you? And really make it a holistic approach.
Awesome. That's so great. Nancy, would you mind if we took each service and spoke about it a little bit? I think that could be helpful for the audience to understand, you know, just even the difference between community integration and employment support. Right. Would you mind if we broke that down a little bit?
Not at all, because these are terms that are kind of industry terms. And when we talk to parent groups, there isn't necessarily an understanding of this differentiation. It's just so easy to fall into the lingo, the jargon. Yeah. So yes, I'd be happy to kind of break it down.
Yeah, let's start with community integration, Nancy. Okay. What does this service kind of umbrella cover? What is the heart of it, or the goal of community integration?
Well, the real core of it is that if an individual is living in a group home or at their own home or even in their own apartment, if they're not working, they tend to get isolated and only kind of get out and about, maybe if the family has time to do that. And it's just easy to get kind of in your own box. And so the program is really meant to meet with them and say, what would you like to be engaged in? What out there in the community do you want to access? So if you want to work out and go to the Y, we help you do that. If you love nature and you want to garden, we're going to support you in taking classes at Descanso Gardens. If you'd like to learn, you know, how to dance, we can find a dance class to support you. So it's really individualized to just getting out there and being part of the community and being part of activities. Instead of just being in an activity that's all your peers, it is an activity out in the community with as I say, neurodiverse individuals, of all folks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it includes a volunteering component. Many people very much want to give back, and they want to be part of, you know, they have their own causes and they want to be part of solutions too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So community integration is really the heart of that, is reducing isolation, being a participant or engaged in your surrounding community where you live, you know, creating those kind of meaningful relationships and places to go and to be with. Okay.
There is just like one. Yeah, I was just going to say, there is a peer component to that too, in that they're with their friends. And so they, you know, just like all of us, it's fun to do activities that you enjoy with your pals. So there is a peer component to it as well that helps fight off that isolation.
Yeah, agreed. And actually, I think that can be one of the downsides of like supported living services or independent living services, in the sense that we've got adults living on their own and not necessarily in the context of a group home or a community of their peers, right? And so community integration can really help to combat that isolation. I think that can happen, you know? Yeah. Okay. Second umbrella, second service model is the employment support. And Nancy, what exactly is that service called? You'll know the term for that.
Supported employment is what it's called. And there are two types in the world of vendored lingo, individual and group. So group is an older model where one individual, so here's how a group would work. we would take on, as an agency, the responsibility of finding a work contract of some sort, like one that we have is with the city of Burbank. And then we ask different associates who wants to be part of this work crew. And one of our individuals takes that crew and supports them in cleaning and doing litter removal and all at the city of Burbank. So that's an older model because the agency takes on the risk. The agency then has one individual that has that group, and that group might not be very integrated with the general community. They kind of go as one cohort, they do their thing, and they go home. So really where we want to try and move to, and this is a federal and state push for more integration, is to have individual jobs to help people find a job in the community on their own and not necessarily be just part of what they used to call an enclave, a group. Mm-hmm. So we have that as well. And awesome. That's where a job. So we have two professionals that are really key to that. And that is the job developer, who meets with the associate and says, okay, what kind of job do you want? And how prepared are you? What kind of experience do you have? Let's talk about, do you know how to do a resume? Do you know how to do an interview? And let's prepare you for that. So the job developer helps identify those goals and helps prepare the individual for that job search process. And then the job coach is the individual that actually goes with them when they are actually employed. And the job coach is there to support them and kind of ease that transition, make sure they know what to do, they know who to talk to. They're kind of there to make sure that that's a seamless process. And that's kind of a support, so the employer knows that associate, it's not just up to them to do all of the training or retraining or reinforcement, because a lot of the individuals that we support, they need a lot of repetition and they need a lot of prompting to kind of stay on task. And so those supports help make sure that they're successful, because that's the main thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, we have two additional things we've added. And that is, we have some pre-employment behavioral support if there are just some challenges that people might need a little bit of more expertise in overcoming. And we also have a grant that funds some computer training. So we have a computer lab. And so we can help folks really kind of hone those skills. How do you write a professional email? How do you develop an Indeed profile? What's LinkedIn, and do I need it? So some of these more 21st century skills that are not embedded and are not part of our normal reimbursement, we've sought some grant funding to add these kind of wraparound services to our supported employment program. So we're very proud of that, because we feel it's really developing a little higher level model.
Yeah, and serving more associates, right? Serving yes. a wider range of need right. that your associates might present. Nancy, I imagine that maybe someone who's listening might be wondering, how long can you have a job coach for? There's a worry sometimes. It's like, okay, it's great. You get this one-on-one support, on the job training, on the job help and monitoring and feedback. How long can that last?
Well, that is individualized too. And that's up to the agency to really do the assessment and make sure that the support is there that's needed. So families may have heard of the traditional Department of Rehabilitation FADE. And the FADE traditionally is 100% the first month, and then it goes down to 80%, and then it goes down to 60, 40, 20. So after 6 months, you kind of cap out at 20% coaching support, and then that is typically maintained by the regional center. But not everybody fits that cookie cutter mold. So it's really up to the agency to work with the Department of Rehabilitation or work with the regional center and say, this individual needs more support up front to be successful. Or this individual, actually, we can launch them quicker. They're getting it. They're ready to move on. They probably don't need that much support ongoing. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very individualized. You can petition. It's challenging because, that it's it's a little bit of a tough ask to say an individual might need 100% all of the time, but it is within the realm of person-centered planning. If regional center and the agency really defines that that's what that person needs to be successful, that can be achieved. It's just difficult.
Yes.
It's a little difficult.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, there's a funding issue that goes with that.
Yeah.
But so we try to pair people with jobs where they can be more independent, and perhaps that isn't needed.
Yeah.
We might go to an internship process to really do a trial balloon and see how work ready that individual is, how independent they are in the work world.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. The third area of service that you guys provide is residential.
Residential, yes.
This is
We have 3 group homes.
There's a big, and there's a big need in California, not only for employment, but for housing, right? So I'm so glad we're touching on this.
As I talk to groups of parents and organizations, those are the 2 needs that are highly identified: employment and housing. The group home model is, again, a little bit older model, and it was kind of a model that was established, as I understand it, once developmental centers, and once the institutional model began to get dissolved, it moved more to the group home model, where you have a home run by an agency like ours, and you have 24/7 supports, and a number of folks live there as roommates. So we have 3. We have 2 that have 6 folks and 1 that has 9. And that's very supportive and successful for those folks that need a little bit more, they're not quite ready to be independent and have supported living in their own apartment. It's more for the folks who need a little more support with ongoing meal planning, meal prep, medications. We support them by making sure they have all their medical needs met. We provide transportation and get them to their medical appointments. So it's pretty hands-on. Our 3 homes are what they call level 2, which is pretty much the highest level before you go into your own living apartment. Mm-hmm. So our folks are pretty independent, but they do need just that constant support and prompting.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like it's kind of just an oversight and monitoring to make that
we don't direct their coming and going. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, they all have they have a key to the place. They come and go as they need. Many of them are working, and they take the bus, or they coordinate their own transportation. We might support them to get access set up, and then they're on their own. So the folks in our homes are pretty independent.
Got it. Yeah. Nancy, don't you have a really cool residential project
we do.
Are we able to share any of that, or is that like not ready for sharing?
Well, it's a little ambiguous because you and I haven't talked in a month or so. But our plan is to develop a community, and by that I mean that we're going to build something from the ground up that is a community specifically to support intellectually disabled adults within a community where everybody has their own home. So picture kind of a bungalow courtyard kind of setup where everybody has their own little cottage, and all the supports they need are there. So instead of going from a group home and coming here to our headquarters and getting programming, it's all kind of embedded within the community. So there are activities that would be available. There would be professionals there to kind of support all of that. There would be the employment supports right there within the community to meet with people and help them determine, what jobs they want. And we're not sure how far away we're going to be from that, but that's our vision, and we are fundraising for that. And we're getting some real traction. We're getting some interest from parents. interest from foundations, and our board is out there now really touting this and trying to develop the funds to do this. So we are looking at some properties in Glendale and hope to make this a reality. I can't give a lot of specifics right now because I don't have them.
That's okay.
But
that's okay.
yeah, we just feel this is a model that maybe its time has come, because we're finding families aren't as interested in the group home.
Yeah.
Again, it's an older model, and it doesn't feel as empowering as having your loved one in their own little home. Yeah. You know, our rooms are all shared. You know, the bathroom's down the hall. Everybody's sharing a kitchen. It's the next level in terms of dignity and independence, really.
Yeah. And what I really love, I've heard this model, this residential model, referred to as a pocket community.
That's right.
Right. Which is where you have everyone in their own home. And it's set up where your neighborhood are your peers. And so the services are there. So it's this really nice balance of not feeling isolated because you're in a community of your peers, but yet you still have your own dignity and privacy in your own place. And it's lovely. It's such a lovely model.
We're very excited about it because that 24/7 support is still there. It's just not right there in the house.
Yeah.
So it's there when you need it. Yeah. And there's still plenty of access into the community. This isn't meant to be, it's an open community where members of the greater community are coming in, and individuals who live there are going out and doing all the things they do now. Yeah. Working and being part of the greater community. So it's not an isolated community, but there is a peer group kind of element. And, we see this very successful in senior living communities and other kinds of special interest communities that are cropping up. People want to be with like-minded. And I think that parents who are looking at this for their young adults, especially, see this as a little bit more of a safety net than, say, going and living in an apartment where there's just services that pop in from time to time.
Yeah.
And that may be it depends on where the individuals act. This is not the answer for everybody. It's one of the things, it's one of the options. And we just see it as an option that is, we're being asked to look at. Families are asking us to look at this.
It's fantastic. It's so fantastic.
Thank you.
Nancy, who is, when we think about the associates, so the young adults that are participating in your program, what is the best, if you were to think about, wow, when this young person comes to us and they meet up with our programming, like the magic happens, who is like kind of the ideal, or an associate, a description of an associate that does really well in your program?
Yeah, I think that would be right now, because our programs are separated. We're not yet in that community where they're all completely commingled. But the associates that we support, who perhaps lives in one of our residences and has gone through our supported employment process and is continuing to get coaching, and may also, if it's not a full-time job, be part of the community integration program. It's that associate who really gets that whole complement of supports, I think, that does really, really well, because we can coordinate them. We've got a team approach about what's best for them. And I think that they do really well because we know them very well. Yeah. That's really the key. It isn't, a name and a diagnosis on a piece of paper. It's an individual we get to know, and know how they need their supports.
Yeah, and potentially support them for years, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, our residents, many of them have been with us decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about a good a description of an associate for your community integration program?
I think the individual who's living at home and maybe even is living with family who are an immigrant family or speak a different language. We have a lot of Armenian speaking associates, and their families are very tied into, say, the Armenian community in Glendale, but their young adult isn't necessarily fully integrated in the overall community. And so where I think we do a really good job is that we kind of have a cohort of those folks that we have an Armenian speaking class, so we can help them if they want to learn English. And so they have their own interests in their own culture and community. And so we have staff who are sensitive to that, who are Armenian speaking, and can really provide them with the access that's appropriate for them. Nice. And they can really get to, to talk with the families and help them understand, because they may not be as tied into the overall, opportunities.
Yeah. And, it makes me think of how important it is to be connected to your surrounding community. So you've got your family and maybe your family's, extended family or friends, right? But you still need to access the community resources, whether it's a restaurant, a different kind of restaurant, or a grocery store, or, to be able to go out into your surrounding community and get to know what's there. Your comfort just in your physical community. Yeah.
Or even understanding the whole menu of regional center offerings. Maybe there may be a few, language barriers to really understanding their full rights and resources are available to them. So we're really able to help there as well.
That's awesome. Okay. How about supported employment, Nancy? Who's a good candidate for your supported employment services?
Well, I think that young adult what we're really aiming at and trying to create is the hardest break-in is that first job. Because a lot of young adults haven't had that part-time job as a teenager, and they haven't gone through that kind of pyramid of different responsibilities leading up to full employment. So to take someone who's been in a pretty protective environment and some special, programs, and suddenly thrust them into a job may be asking quite a bit of them. So we feel we do a good job kind of helping them ease into it and help assess. Maybe they start with community integration and they start with volunteering, and then move into part-time employment. Maybe in internship. We haven't done a lot yet, but we're looking into trying to establish more, because I think that that's a great gateway to full-time employment, is to have an internship first and let the employee and the employer get to know each other. So I feel like that's the individual we can really help the most.
Nice.
Especially with all of the computer and extra program wraparound that we have. I think those things really help that first-time job hunter.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Nancy, if anyone's listening to this and they want to find out more about the Campbell Center and about the services, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, certainly you can go to our website, thecampbellcenter.org. You can just go ahead and give us a call, 818-242-2434. Or talk to your service coordinator at your regional center, because really that is kind of the referral process. You can come to us and we can help you reach out to all of the Department of Rehab or the regional center if you need a referral. But often if you have a service coordinator, talk to them and they'll go ahead and send your packet over to us and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy, for your time today and for helping us learn more about the Campbell Center.
Well, thank you, Gwen. I really, really appreciate the opportunity.